Hello and good morning. Happy Sunday and happy new moon in Cancer. Would love to hear how you all are doing, what you're feeling within this energy. There's definitely the feeling and the influence of the new beginnings and clearing out some of the old clutter. And yet there's also a lot of other cosmic changes. We've got Venus going retrograde at the end of the week. We have the sun going into Leo at the end of the week, which is like the sun's home. This means that it is a time when the heart is more expanded, more operational, and we'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. And also, we have the nodes that are switching. Now, I'm not an astrologer. I just base this off of some of the information that I'm familiar with and then my intuitive interpretations, what I'm experiencing and observing. So, all I can really say is that there are a lot of different angles that are presenting themselves in the energy. And with that being said, there is just like a lot of my door just opened. So all of that to say, there's a lot of new energy coming in, new beginnings, openings, new doors being opened for us. And with the switch from Cancer to Leo, Cancer is very home, and it's heart, chest, breasts, and communication, as well as like love, nurturing, compassion, and it tends to be a little bit more introverted than extroverted, particularly with the new moon being like the introversion phase. And our moon is in Cancer. Our new moon is in Cancer. But we are moving towards this Leo energy. Now, Leo is very bold. It is very extravagant. It is extraordinary, extroverted. It wants to be seen and acknowledged for its greatness. And so it's this pair of the solar plexus and the heart. The solar plexus being a place where we find our courage and our willpower and our willingness to accept ourselves, also to accept others when it's in balance. It's accepting that things are in a natural order and we don't need to control them. But when the solar plexus is out of balance, there is a need to control because we don't trust the process, which therein mean we don't really trust ourselves. We don't really trust that things are unfolding in their own divine order and within the plan. This also requires that we align the personal will with the divine will, so that it's not so egocentric, but that we surrender. And that's the balance with the control, is knowing when to assert yourself and when to be bold, because it is aligned with what spirit is asking for through your expression. Or that it is that you're surrendering your will, your desires, your personalities, wants to what is in the highest for all involved, not just self. And when we're able to do this, it establishes a consistency with openness in the heart. Because all of our chakras, all of these energy centers of consciousness within the body are balanced. They have to balance with one another. They're paired, male and female. So the solar plexus, being the masculine force, is very active. It's very proactive. It's very external in the way that it wants to present and be acknowledged and be interacted with and exchanged. And the heart is receptive. It's feminine. It's giving, but it's from the feminine place. It's not forcing anything. It's really just being open and giving love, open and willing to be compassionate and understanding and holding space because it trusts the process. So it's the divine partnership within the consciousness. And as we move into the Leo energy, it will definitely, what I'm feeling intuitively right now with all of the energies combined, but as we're talking a little bit more about moving into Leo as we come through the new moon, there's going to be opportunities to resolve a good bit of inner child issues, because it's going to be around relationship. It's going to be around love. It's going to be, what did we record about love when we were children? What was the interactions that we saw about love? Maybe even about intimacy, which can be confused with sexuality. Not that sexuality isn't a form of intimacy, but sometimes often, most of us contain these programs around intimacy equals sexuality. And in order to be intimate, then we have to give some form of sexual exchange. And that's not the case. It's actually reversed. And so there may be stuff that comes up around that. Cancer being the home, you may be finding that with this new moon that things within your physical home are going to want to change. That you may be getting these opportunities, these experiences that are going to trigger some reactiveness or responsiveness to shifting the dynamic of how we relate to our home, the home within the self, our home spiritually, the home within the body, as well as the external home and the people that we associate with that. So it could be family, it could be friends, caregivers, spouses, partners. And children. Children seem to be indicated here too, because in the heart, ideally, this is where the inner child should live. But we have to bring them from this place where they exist in most of humanity, which is in the sacral center. We have to bring them into the heart. We have to recover the child and bring them into the parent, which lives in the heart. This unified place of Mother, Father, God, Christ, child. And so there may be some of that energy. Let's use this incredible wisdom to call on higher intuition, higher wisdom, and messages from the divine, asking that this be a clear channel of pure light that offers reflections and messages that can assist us through this new moon energy, through all of this energy. I'm being reminded this is also the ending and beginning of a new karmic cycle. And that's what the nodes indicate, is endings and beginning of karmic cycles. So just asking for this to be a very clear, refined message that serves each individual in their own personalized way, to restore the memory of their perfection, their love, their wholeness, and their beauty, and to offer them the guidance that may help them to see that and to enact it in all of their relationships, all of their interpretations, and their exchanges in the world, and so be it. The solar energy becomes very charged at this time of year. We just came through the solstice, which is another point where we're really getting this influx of light from our spiritual sun, from Sirius, and now we're moving into the heart, into this heart-centered place. But in order for us to live from a heart-centered place, we have to work through all of the stuff that prevents us from being in that space. So our first card is from this deck. It's called Nanabuloku, and it says, "She rests to create." I don't get this card very often, so I'm not as familiar. Your energy is a precious resource, and there are ways of being that can enhance, amplify, and replenish it. Give yourself sufficient rest, and you shall find the way forward more effortless. Explore the lifestyle that grows your inner resources, rather than requiring constant exertion and exhaustion to accomplish an endless list of external pursuits. You need this shift in being now because you are ready to accomplish more. For this to take place, there needs to be less effort and more wisdom. Trust and value what can be achieved through rest. All right, so this, I'm appreciating receiving this because it has felt like it's been particularly busy in my world for the last couple of weeks. So I really welcome this rest. And as I look at this image here, you can see this is mind-heart connection. See how the heart is lit up, the third eye is open. Got the crescent moons there too, which represent the new moon, which is that introspection. But you also see that the crown chakra is open, the throat is open. So it's this portal of connection where wisdom comes from. Wisdom does not come from our brain, it does not come from our ego. It comes from seeking outside of that. So going from this very busy externalized energy, this creating and changing in the outer world, to really being reflective at home, looking at the integrity of the structures of the inner home and the dynamics of the inner home. We may come back to that card again. And as we dive deeper, we ask, how does this become more relative in our day-to-day? What does this mean for us? So the empathy card, and pull from a different deck. Our empathy card. And let's use the Sacred Flames deck. Okay, this card was wanting to jump out, so I'm going to pull it. Nourish your heart and soul with all that is noble, beautiful, and enlightening. Go into your heart and begin to unite your energies with the divine within you. Guys, we've been in a major purification this year. Yeah, this has been a great year of balancing out. Yesteryear was a lot of balancing the divine feminine, divine masculine, this two energy. And this year, such a great purification that is the product of when the two are balanced, create wisdom. The feminine and the masculine together become something new. They become a unified force, or they give birth to the creation of wisdom, to the light of the child. There's also a reclamation of innocence that's happening, but it's not happening in the way that you might think. This is happening through the darkness. And I pull the Owl card as that comes through. So in this process of going more internal and reviewing the internal structures, the family structures that live within us, the dynamics of how we speak to ourselves, how we speak to our inner child, do we acknowledge our inner child? What are the ways that our inner child are triggered, and how do they react to that? How are they trying to get our attention? Where are we needing more empathy? Where are we needing to look at what it is that we are bringing in? What are we consuming things that are keeping us bitter, that are keeping us disconnected, that are preventing us from resting, like resting really deeply. In my personal journey, I've been doing some research and studying ways that I can clean myself more and like reestablishing these healthy habits in my life that meet every part of me. You know, it's one thing for us to nourish our bodies physically, but if we're not doing the same on all other dimensions, on the emotional, mental, and the spiritual, then it can only take us so far. So if we choose to approach our healing multidimensionally, we change what we're consuming, both physically and mentally. If we change the way that we're speaking to ourselves and we're doing studies, we're learning, we're growing our understanding of ourself in self-study and engaging in the practices that connect us back with our divinity, connect us spiritually, then you have the pathway for healing open, because it has to go through all of these dimensions. And so if we only approach it from an isolated point of view or from a couple points of view, it may be more challenging to make that shift and that transformation and for the healing to occur more rapidly. So this is a time to accelerate it. Nourish your heart and soul with all that is noble, beautiful, and enlightening. If there's anything in your environment right now, maybe it's something you're watching, maybe it's something you're reading, maybe it's someone who's living in your home. Maybe you need to put up a little bit of boundaries there in a very loving way and just say, look, I understand that you're having, that you feel really caught up in this way of thinking. You know, maybe it's just, for example, maybe it's somebody who's like constantly watching the news or constantly, you know, in fear porn, or maybe it could even be on the other end. Maybe they're like bypassing and they're always on the positive polarity and ignoring what's actually there, ignoring the darkness. Maybe you just set that loving boundary of, hey, like I would really appreciate if we engage in another way other than this, or some kind of perimeter that you put to keep yourself healthy, to give yourself what you need, and to establish the boundaries that are vital to keep your health. Go into your heart and begin to unite your energies with divine within you. This requires that wisdom. This requires that we go beyond the thinking mind and that we sit in meditation, that we sit in self-reflection. We go into nature and we reattune ourselves with nature, that we are not separate. We bring our body onto the earth in connection with the earth and the elements and the water and the Cancerian energy. It's perfect for working with water and fire. And let's hear what the owl has to say. The owl has this perfect vision in the night. It's nocturnal, so it's able to be aware of what's happening underneath the surface during the night. She can see situations with perfect clarity, and more so when it's dark. Able to discern truth when others are sightless. She helps you find your light and your lightness in the darkest moments of your life, and to embrace the night as your ally. This says to look around you and notice every detail and find the hidden messages brought to you by Owl. Don't shoot the messenger. Be grateful to the friend who shows you what you have not wanted to see until now. Observe all the facets of the diamond without judgment. Remember that the facets you dislike are often mirrors of the parts of you that you do not want to recognize. Do not be afraid of the truth, as it will become your compass. The owl guards against self-deception and insists that your motives be pure and transparent to all. What is the message that you are not hearing, the situation you are not seeing with clarity? Owl invites you to wait patiently. Bide your time until it is right to act. Then so do decisively with no hesitation or remorse. So I'm feeling a sense that maybe some of us have been in a dark night of the soul, or just a period that feels pretty dark, that feels challenging. For me, I can say I'm definitely feeling that. Since the full moon, I've definitely felt it. And this is natural. This is a positive thing, because when the light comes in and it starts shining into these places, we have to be with them so they don't fester and reproduce. So it's the opportunity for the light to transform what has not been healed. And this can be through a positive and a negative lens. This to me feels like it's more of like accepting some of these habits and behaviors that are egoic, that are self-centered, that are selfish, and self-destructive. And guess what? Like right there in that moment, I could already feel that it was triggering, because nobody wants to be thought of in this way, right? We don't, not me, right? But we have to be willing to humble ourselves to the process of knowing that we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And that life only reflects back to us the quality of our own love and our own presence. So if what it is presenting is troublesome, is difficult, I'm hearing narcissistic, then we need to be willing to let go of the story that we are not that, we can't be that, the part of us that demonizes that, and really look at that. Well, why is it that I feel so strongly about that? And you ask. You don't ask the mind. You ask your higher self. You ask the allies, the angels, those that work with the divine, that work with you specifically from the living light. Let's be specific about that. The allies of the living light, to assist you in revealing what is it that I cannot see, that I have not seen. And I leave myself open and available and vulnerable to meet what has felt difficult for me to accept in myself. Wow, feels very, very strong and so brave, so courageous for those of us that are willing to do this work, that are willing to go, wow, yeah, I actually have a tendency to do this really ugly thing. And it was only pointed out to me because I saw it in this person, maybe in a different way, in a different form. And I'll give you a really good way. If you look at some political candidates, because these seem to always be triggers for people, because if you were to take the world and we look at it as this global consciousness, if we reflect it as our own consciousness, it is like the outer ego identity. These people that really trigger us, it's an outer ego identity that actually lives somewhere within our own egoic structure. In some way, you may demean people. In some way, you may speak to people disrespectfully. In some way, you have some bias somewhere. You have some kind of strong judgments. That covers it all. So if you offer yourself to the process, and I'm going to offer you a way that you can do this. Find the person or the thing, the situation that feels most triggering to you right now in your life, and create a sacred space and just go, it's been difficult for me to see how this relates to me. I'm asking with willingness and an open heart to understand where I am not able to love this person or this situation. Show me where I've separated myself from the truth of love in relationship. And you should get some answer. It may be in the form of memories. It may be a word. It may be just the feeling, allowing yourself to feel some kind of emotion that's been deep pressed, a thought that has been deep pressed, and be with it. Let yourself be with it. And then start to feed in good stuff. So one of my approaches to getting rid of like toxic things, especially physically, and if you don't know anything about my backstory, I've gone through addiction of all sorts and kinds, eating disorders, abusive relationships. So I've spent a fair amount of my life navigating the underworld and the upper world and the integration, the healing processes with all of these. And I can say that rather than just taking something out, if you just start putting some really nourishing, good things in, the rest falls away. You don't have a need for it as much because the need to reach for these toxic things comes from not having the nourishing thing. It comes from not having the love, from having the connection with Source, with God. So if you just start to feed in some healthy, positive, affirming, life-giving, light holding, anchoring things, foods, thoughts, people, environments in, if you sow that in, the other stuff is naturally going to find its way out. And I almost feel like this message has come to completion, which is, this is a first of only drawing this many cards. Let me just check in. I'm going to draw one more card. What will be of the highest and most helpful to close this message and to send these viewers with information that feels hopeful and directive? Let's see. Yeah, this energy of deep rest, deep rest. All right, I'll just keep shuffling. Energy today feels really strong. Really strong. So a lot of these other influences coming in. Deep replenishment is our last card. So we started with the card that was about introverting to a degree. It was about resting, about not undervaluing the power of rest, and where a lot of these answers that we're seeking, the information and the wisdom that we're seeking, cannot happen until we have that feminine space, that feminine quality of being, and not in the active qualities of doing. That the being actually is a creative. That is a creative process, which is a little bit different from productive. So you have the creative and then you have the productive. Man, this just feels so powerful for this month. Deep replenishment, retreat, rest, and be held. The message is clear. Tune into your heart. Tune into your heart and restore the channels that offer you deep replenishment and healing and nutrition and nurturance. Don't even worry as much about taking stuff out as much as restoring the things. If you're not getting good sleep, check in with your diet. Can you add more magnesium at night? Is that possible? Do you need some other, maybe herbal support or practices? Tricotta practice is a great one. Making sure that you are letting the light set with the sun, and there are great bulbs that help for your brain to drop into that circadian rhythm, because it's not emitting these frequencies that mimic the sun after the sun goes down. And if you need any help with some of this is my thing. This is what I'm great at. So if you need some resources, help with finding ways, natural healing methods for establishing these channels of wellness and restoration, reach out to me. Don't be afraid to go into your darkness. Don't be afraid to be with the things that have brought up uncomfortable feelings. This is the time. The light is there. It's with you. It's there to illuminate this. And therefore, the more that you will direct your energy and your thoughts towards inviting it to be seen, to be digested, to be discovered, you will call that forth. If you're not resting, though, and you are shifting more from this active way of being into the doing, you may miss it. If you're like, well, I've been doing that, but I'm not getting answers, I'm not hearing anything. Well, it's very unlikely that you're not getting answers. What's more likely is that you are not creating the conditions to listen. So this is going to require some deep listening and allowance. Let yourself get bored. Let yourself lay around, take naps, jump in the river, go for a swim, lay in the sun, walk in the woods. Do these things that are more mindful and that create space between you and the distractions of the world and like just that background noise of TVs running or even music. I would definitely suggest steering more towards instrumental music or maybe mantric music. Maybe just stick with the instrumental stuff that won't create and clog your ability to hear clearly. All right, so we're going to close this up. I'm going to read you a little bit on this message. The most selfless thing you can do is to fill up your own inner well. When you are running around half-filled, we subconsciously look to things and people around us to give us the nourishment and nurturing that we so deeply crave. Nothing can grow in barren lands. You are no good to anyone if you're running on empty. The feminine is bountiful, fertile, and rich. Tend to your own well and watch as the amount you have to give multiplies. If your inner well isn't full, you will find yourself craving things from the outside world to fill it. This is our body's instinctive way of reaching for the grounding and nurturing that we are not allowing ourselves. So what nourishes you? What refuels your body? What is nectar for your soul? What brings you back to life? What is your secret medicine? What makes you feel abundant and fertile? Overspilling with life. It may be gardening, arranging flowers, getting a massage, using essential oils, snuggling up on the couch or with your pet, hiking, sipping a good drink, attending a circle, reading about sacred sites, spontaneous bike rides, walking along the beach, or yoga. What nourishes you is your medicine. When you give yourself the medicine that you need to be nourished, you nourish all those around you, for there is more than enough to go around. Do something that deeply replenishes you today. You can put everything else aside. The most important thing is that you are replenished, restored, and that you can feel your soul, that you can feel this intact part of you that is the most real and alive part of you. And that overflows into all of the other parts to restore the life of the body and all of these facets of the human experience. So deep gratitude to you all, sending you with love. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. If this was helpful, if you appreciate this, I always appreciate you showing by hitting that like button, dropping some comments in if there's something that you want to share. I would love to hear more about how the energy is presenting for you and how you are digesting it. And sending you all with so much love and wishing you a pure and simple life. Pura vida.